Welcome to another installment of Donning the Armor. This morning we'll begin in Genesis chapter 48, verse 1. Now it came to pass after these things that Joseph was told, "Indeed, your father is sick." And he took with him his two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. And Jacob was told, "Look, your son Joseph is coming to you." And Israel strengthened himself and sat up on the bed. Then Jacob said to Joseph, "God Almighty appeared to me at Luz in the land of Canaan and blessed me, and said to me, Behold, I will make you fruitful and multiply you, and I will make you a multitude of people, and give this land to your descendants after you as an everlasting possession. And now your two sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, who were born to you in the land of Egypt before I came to you in Egypt, are mine. As Reuben and Simeon, they shall be mine. Your offspring, whom you beget after you, shall be yours. They will be called by the name of their brothers in their inheritance. But as for me, when I came from Padan, Rachel died beside me in the land of Canaan on the way. And when there was but a little distance to go to Ephrath, I buried her there on the way to Ephrath, that is Bethlehem." So, here, Jacob is getting ready to pass on. As God promised, Joseph is there with his two sons. But he's doing something interesting, and he's saying, look, your two children here, they're now my children. As far as the blessings are concerned, I'm going to bless your two children as if they are my own. Now, everyone that comes after them, they'll be yours. But as far as these two, they are going to be mine. Then Israel saw Joseph's sons and said, "Who are these?" Joseph said to his father, "They are my sons, whom God has given me in this place." And he said, "Please bring them to me, and I will bless them." Now the eyes of Israel were dim with age, so that he could not see. He was functionally blind, much like his father Isaac was. Then Joseph brought them near, and he kissed them and embraced them. And Israel said to Joseph, "I had not thought to see your face, but in fact God has also shown me your offspring." So he's saying, I never thought I'd ever see you again. We thought you were dead. I thought I'd seen you for the last time. But God is so blessed me in such an abundance, and has been so gracious and merciful to me that I now got to see your offspring, got to see my grandchildren. Not just you and find you, but to find your children as well. So Joseph brought them from beside his knee, and he bowed down with his face to the earth. And Joseph took them both, Ephraim with his right hand towards Israel's left hand, and Manasseh with his left hand towards Israel's right hand, and brought them near to him. Then Israel stretched out his right hand and laid it on Ephraim's head, who was the younger, and his left hand on Manasseh's head, guiding his hands knowingly, for Manasseh was the firstborn. And he blessed Joseph and said, "God, before whom my fathers Abraham and Isaac walked, the God who has fed me all my life long to this day, the angel who has redeemed me from all evil, bless the lads. Let my name be named upon them, and the name of my fathers Abraham and Isaac, and let them grow into a multitude in the midst of the earth." Now when Joseph saw that his father had laid his right hand on the head of Ephraim, it displeased him, so he took hold of his father's hand to remove it from Ephraim's head to Manasseh's head. And Joseph said to his father, "Not so, my father, for this one is the firstborn. Put your right hand on his head." So Joseph sees that his father has switched his hands and is saying, No, you got it wrong. It must be because of your eyes. Let me put it right. But his father refused and said, "I know, my son, I know. He also shall become a people, and he also shall be great. But truly his younger brother shall be greater than he, and his descendants shall become a multitude of nations." So he blessed them that day, saying, "By you Israel will bless, saying, May God make you Ephraim as Ephraim and as Manasseh." And thus he set Ephraim before Manasseh. So, as he had taken the birthright from his older brother, Israel isn't snatching it away this time, but he is acting as God would have him act and blessing Ephraim over Manasseh. And it does come to be in this way, as we'll get towards Deuteronomy and Joshua. We'll see that Ephraim becomes the northern kingdom of Israel in the book of Kings. We'll see that when they split up, Ephraim basically becomes the northern kingdom. That's how plentiful their tribe is. Where Manasseh will be split in half, and we'll have half the tribe on one half of the Jordan not entering the promised land, and the other half of the tribe entering. So in that way, Ephraim does become a much greater multitude of nations and a multitude of peoples. When Israel said to Joseph, "Behold, I am dying, but God will be with you and bring you back to the land of your fathers. Moreover, I have given to you one portion above your brothers, which I took from the hand of the Amorite with my sword and my bow." So, we don't know what that is. That probably has to do with a conflict that they had in Canaan. But what he means by "I've given you one more portion above your brothers" is each of them are going to be blessed individually. Whereas Joseph is not being blessed individually, he's being blessed twice through his children. See, each of his brothers are going to be blessed by their name as a tribe, where Joseph is not the name of a tribe of Israel. Manasseh and Ephraim are. So Joseph's being blessed twice through his children, not through himself. So moving on to chapter 49. And Jacob called his sons and said, "Gather together, that I may tell you what shall befall you in the last days. Gather together and hear, you sons of Jacob, and listen to your Israel your father. Reuben, you are my firstborn, my might, and the beginning of my strength." Beginning of his strength, he's the beginning of his family. He was his firstborn. "The excellency of dignity and the excellency of power. Unstable as water, you shall not excel. Because you went up to your father's bed, then you defiled it. He went up to my couch." So, unstable as water. You know, he has a level of dignity. He has a level of power, but he's unstable. He acted righteously when he did not want to sell Joseph, but he went the other way and went up and defiled his father's bed when Benjamin was placed at his right hand by name, when he saw that he favored Benjamin once again over him, even though he was the firstborn. So in that way, Reuben was unstable. And because of his instability, the peoples that would be born from him, they would not excel in life. They would not become as great as they should. Simeon and Levi are brothers. Instruments of cruelty are in their dwelling place. Let not my soul enter their council. Let not my honor be united to their assembly. For in their anger they slew a man, and in their self-will they hamstrung an ox. Cursed be their anger, for it is fierce, and their wrath, for it is cruel. I will divide them in Jacob and scatter them in Israel. And this comes to pass. They were cruel. They slew more than a man. They genocided an entire city because of what happened over their sister Dinah in her treatment. But their self-will, they were not willing to let God determine the course of action, the course of punishment for Shechem and the people of Shechem. They took it. They said, "We are angered. We will be vengeance upon them for what was done to our sister. We will be the ones to act and decide what needs to be done." And they were instruments of cruelty. They had the people circumcise themselves or get circumcised in a deceitful action and in a process of deceiving them, only to slay them at their weakest. In their self-will, in their anger, in their wickedness, because it was fierce, and in their wrath, because they were cruel, they did these things, and because of that, they would be divided in the nation of Israel. They would be scattered about. Levi, tribe of Levi, is the tribe of priests. The tribe of priests did not have a plot of land to themselves. They acted in the plot of land for everybody because they would be the priests and the instruments of God. But as we'll also see in Exodus, the tribe of Levi, when they follow Moses, are one of the most bloodthirsty tribes. They are the most willing to shed blood, including the blood of their brethren, because of their zealousness. And because of that, God sees fit to make them the priests because he needs to keep them closest to him and keep them from gathering together and acting out in a sense of self-will and going forth and causing destruction. Judah, you are he whom your brothers shall praise, which is an interesting blessing, because you can see most of the kids are not going to be blessed. They're going to be almost be cursed by Jacob through this process. But Judah, the one who wanted to slay Joseph and the one who came up with the idea of selling him, he's the one who the brothers shall praise. Your hand shall be on the neck of your enemies. Your father's children shall bow down before you. They shall bow down before him. And as we know, the tribe of Judah is the tribe that David comes from. He will not be the first king, but he will be the greatest. And for the land of Judah, for the nation of Judah, which will become the nation of Judea, the crown does not pass from David's line at any point. Now, the nation of Israel, the northern nation, they'll cycle around with different tribes with their kings as they continue to be failures. But all the other tribes will bow down before the kingship of the tribe of Judah throughout Judah's history. Judah is a lion's whelp. From the prey, my son, you have gone up. He bows down. He lies down as a lion. And as a lion, who shall rouse him? The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from between his feet, until Shiloh comes. So the scepter should not depart from Judah. It will stay, the kingship, the scepter of kingship will stay with the tribe of Judah, will not depart from them until Shiloh comes. And to him shall be the obedience of his people. Until Shiloh comes, the scepter will not depart. Even in exile, the kingship line of Judah, of Israel, even though they didn't have a king, technically, the bloodline of the kingship continued all through their time in Babylon, all under their oppression under Persia, all through their oppression under Rome, all the way until 7 AD is when the Roman authorities took away the Jewish right of self-governance as far as it came to prosecuting their own crimes. Then you couldn't carry out certain things without Roman authority. And it came to pass in those times that the Pharisees and priests believed that the law of God had died, that the covenant of God had died in that moment. Because the understanding was that Shiloh, until Shiloh comes, meant until the Messiah comes, the scepter will not depart from Judah. And it seemed in that moment that the scepter had departed from Judah, because they lost completely their self-governance at 7 AD. And the Jewish people couldn't understand it, and they thought that God had completely forsaken them and left them be. because they did not understand that Shiloh had come. The Messiah had already been born. Some people believe that maybe 7 AD might have been the point in time when Jesus was 12 years old, and around that time he had been found and left behind in the temple talking to the Pharisees by his parents during Passover. That it was at that point. Shiloh had already come. The scepter had not departed. They didn't see him for what he was. In some cases, still don't. But to him shall be the obedience of the people. They will obey the king. And now that Shiloh has come, that the Messiah has come, the obedience of all people shall be to him. Because you are either with Christ or without Christ. There's no middle ground. We are told in Scripture you're either for him or against him. There's no in between. Binding his donkey to the vine, and his donkey's colt to the choice vine, he washed his garments in wine, and his clothes in the blood of grapes. His eyes are darker than wine, and his teeth are whiter than milk. When Christ comes back to set up his earthly kingdom again, his clothes will be washed in the blood of his enemies. That's the visage we are given in Revelation, as if he's washed in the blood of grapes. That he will come back with his garments washed in wine. Jesus is not coming to be a cuddly bear, a hippie preacher. He's coming back to be a king with a rod of iron. And he is coming back to secure the birthright of his people. To bring everyone that is with him and who are his back for that final kingdom before the new heaven and new earth. Zebulun shall dwell by the haven of the sea. He shall become a haven for ships, and his border shall adjoin Sidon. Zebulun, the tribe of Zebulun, sets up in between the Mediterranean Sea and the Sea of Galilee. So they basically become where you can see the ships, you can see the docks, you can see the ports. Issachar is a strong donkey, laying down between two burdens. He saw that rest was good, and that the land was pleasant. He bowed his shoulder to bear a burden, and became a band of slaves. Basically, Issachar is large, they're strong, but they're lazy. And because of that, they would often be subjugated by the lands and the nations that would come in to Egypt to subjugate them, to take them over. Dan shall judge his people as one of the tribes of Israel. And he did. I believe Samson was the judge from the land, from the tribe of Dan. But Dan shall be a serpent by the way, a viper by the path, that bites the horse's heel, so that its rider shall fall backwards. I have waited for your salvation, O Lord. So Dan also ends up being a tripping point for the nation of Israel. One of the two golden calves built, one was in Bethel, one was in Dan, when the nation split. And Dan is one of the tribes that first continues to introduce idolatry into the nation of Israel. Gad, a troop shall tramp upon him, but he shall triumph at last. So, Gad stayed on the opposite side of the Jordan. And so, because of that, they often were the tribe that would find war first, but would often triumph in the end. Bread from Asher shall be rich, and he shall yield royal dainties. So, the land of Asher was a good and rich land, and they became very wealthy in their portion of the promised land. Naphtali is a deer let loose. He uses beautiful words. Joseph is a fruitful bough, a fruitful bough by a well. His branches run over the wall. The archers have bitterly grieved him, shot at him, and hated him. But his bow remained in strength, and the arms of his hands were made strong by the hands of the mighty God of Jacob. From there is a shepherd and stone of Israel. By the God of your father who will help you, and by the Almighty who will bless you with blessings from heaven above, blessings from deep that lies, or from the deep of the deep that lies beneath, blessings from the breasts and of the womb. The blessings of your father have excelled in blessings of my ancestors. Up to the utmost bound of the everlasting hills they shall be on the head of Joseph, and the crown of the head of him who was separate from his brothers. So it's an acknowledgement that Joseph has been blessed abundantly by God. At every step of Joseph's life, there has been something looking to trip him up, to do him wrong. Sold into slavery, thrown into prison. At every moment in time, the Lord has provided with him in extreme abundance. Bows have been against him. Enemies have been against him. And oftentimes those enemies were his own brothers. But regardless of what came against him, famine, adversary, God has caused him to prosper in a way that he has caused it for no one else to prosper. That his blessings excelled the blessings of any of the ancestors who came before him. And in all this is the way Joseph was blessed. He would continue to be blessed. Now I said there's no tribe of Joseph. When they name the tribes, they don't name a tribe of Joseph. But what an amazing blessing and words from a father to a son in his last moments. Benjamin is a ravenous wolf. In the morning he shall devour the prey, and at night he shall divide the spoil. So Benjamin, powerful, but also deceitful in very many areas at various times. Benjamin, King Saul, came from the tribe of Benjamin. And though he had plenty of times of abundance, he also had plenty of times of being kind of the bane of Israel. Paul also of the tribe of Benjamin. All these are the 12 tribes of Israel, and this is what their father spoke to them. And he blessed them, and blessed each one according to his own blessings. Then he charged them, and said to them, I am to be gathered to my people. Bury me with my fathers in the cave that is in the field of Ephron the Hittite, in the cave that is in the field of Machpelah, which is before Mamre in the land of Canaan, which Abraham bought with the field of Ephron the Hittite as a possession for a burial place. There they buried Abraham and Sarah his wife. Then there they buried Isaac and Rebekah his wife, and there I buried Leah. The field and the cave that is there were purchased from the sons of Heth. And when Jacob had finished commanding his sons, he drew his feet up into the bed and breathed his last, and was gathered to his people. So it is interesting to see. He's asking his sons, his same covenant he made with Joseph already, saying, I'm to die, I want to be buried with my ancestors. But it is interesting that he says, I buried Leah there. You know, the unloved one, the one who was loved less. Rachel wasn't buried in that spot. She was buried before they ever got there. But Leah was buried. Leah, although not the one he preferred, was still his wife, and he still honored her as his wife, and still gave her that honor of being buried with his ancestors in that cave. Sometimes we seem like we are forgotten. We seem like the blessings that we have, we feel like we've been cursed. And now we go through these blessings and curses of Jacob, and we look and we think, how could that be the last words he would say to some of those kids? That this is what he has to say to them, whether they deserved it or not. But we got to understand that when the Spirit works through us, it doesn't always have us say things we wish to say or we wish we had said. And it doesn't always, when it's coming towards us, end in a way that we wish it to end. The Lord has placed this on Jacob's heart, and he's telling him, this is the future of your sons. And in a lot of ways, I'm sure Jacob didn't want to hear that. Much like Joseph talking to the baker. I'm pretty sure when the Holy Spirit spoke through him, he wished he had not had to tell him those words. Had to predict his death 3 days ahead of time. And I'm sure a part of Jacob did not wish to say these things to his sons. But in a lot of ways, these same blessings and curses and predictions and prophecies aren't even for his sons. They're for the descendants of his sons. But in the end, this is what honor your mother and father is. We often confuse it with simply obeying your mother and father. That you are to obey your mother and father in all that they say. But we aren't to obey anyone that goes against God. If our mother and father want to pull us from God, we don't have to honor that. We don't have to obey that. What it means is that we should honor what they gave to raise us. We should be honoring of them when they get old. And this is for them now to honor Jacob in his old age, at his death, and to do as he had asked, what he had charged them to do, which is to take him into the land of Canaan and bury him, as he honored Leah. But it is a sight to behold when we can see that our actions have consequences, that the character that we have set forth and that we have cultivated, though forgiven by God, it leaves an everlasting, or a lasting, I should say, a lasting impact on those who will follow us. Jacob is saying, this is what you've cultivated in your life. This is what you've done. And because of that, your descendants are going to follow the same path. This is where your descendants are going to go. You who have turned away from who you are, you are going to be blessed. You who have not fully turned away, you're going to cause your descendants to continue on this slide downward. Proverbs says to raise up a child in the way that they should go, and they will not depart from it. Doesn't mean that if you raise your child to be a Christian, they won't stop being a Christian at some point. They have to make that decision for themselves. But they will be more likely to choose the correct path than the wrong path if you raise them in the way they should go. These are some awesome blessings and some tough words for his kids. So, for parents listening and myself, we need to pray that we raise our children and set an example for them so that way the words we say to them when our time comes will be words of encouragement for their walk with the Lord, because they will understand and walk in His abundant blessings instead of stumbling into something they shouldn't. We can't control their walk. We can't force their walk. We can't make their decisions for them. But we can help guide them in the same way the Lord, through the Holy Spirit, tries to guide us through our walk. So, we'll leave off there for today. Thank you for joining me for another installment of Donning the Armor. I hope it was fruitful for you. I pray you'll join me again next time. But until then, be blessed.